Have you ever held onto a grudge and felt the full weight of it on your heart and in your soul? I hate that, and I think we've all been there so many times. Today we are going to dive deep into forgiveness, and not your stereotypical forgive and forget crap. I mean, there is some validity in that, but the surface part of it is just like, we're all like, yeah, okay, I'll just forget, not a problem. It's not that easy. We're going to dive deep into different ways that we've been able to experience forgiveness and give more peace. So stick with us through the end. We've got a lot of neat things that we've done that we're sure are going to help you. So first, why is it so hard for us to forgive people?
Well, honestly, I think it's hard for us to forgive people because we don't forgive ourselves most of the time.
Bingo.
And if we can't do it for ourselves, we certainly can't do it for others. So
Exactly.
So again, it starts with you.
And there's a few other things. I think some people don't want to get vulnerable again because they feel like they were vulnerable and that's why they got hurt the first time. So I'm not going to open myself up vulnerably to be in a forgiving place because that's the key. To forgive, you have to get vulnerable again. You can't do it from the fuck you place. You can't do it from the what?
Well, why not?
Why not?
A lot of people like doing it from the fuck you place.
It's all tried it and it doesn't work. We've proved that. And then there's the victim mentality of it.
Yeah.
Because somewhere it's the ego, basically. The ego's blocking you. Mm-hmm. The ego is telling you that if you let go of that story, if you let go of that victimhood, then you're not the wronged person anymore, and then that other person isn't the person that wronged you. Mm-hmm. So if you step out of the victim, they can't be the person that attacked you anymore or that did you wrong.
You know, that's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
I mean, to construct so many different layers to one situation just so not to deal with forgiveness, that's a lot. You know, so imagine if you just simply forgave. Simple. And not attach all these other things to it. How much better things would be.
And your soul, it can be that simple. The thing is, again, is the ego. The ego is applying all the story because it's simply trying to protect you. So what do we do about this scary ego? Or this in-charge ego? That's the magic thing.
Maybe have a conversation with it or something. Have it feel safe enough to be able to let go of the things that it keeps thinking if I let go of it, it's going to be a problem.
Exactly.
So
this is the key. We usually try to push the ego away, tell the ego to fuck off because now we have somebody else against us, when it really just wants to work with us. If something's trying to protect you, it really wants to work with you. So you know, path of least resistance, you should try to work with it. I was once at a retreat and I went into this forgiveness workshop thing that they were having. And there's this woman, whispering deer, the kindest, sweetest soul, just standing in front of everybody, but powerful at the same time. And so she had us all like lay down or sit down, get comfortable, take deep breaths, get into that place of who we wanted to forgive that day. What was the incident? Bring up all those feelings. So you're bringing up either hate some people had, anger, disappointment, betrayal, like, you know, pick whatever your poison is that you've decided to hold in your system this long.
Revenge.
Revenge, yes. All those things, we brought them up. And then she walked us through sitting with this person and apologizing to them, and then just getting up and walking out the door. And then she had everybody pause, and some people were like, oh yeah, I feel great. And it's like, right, whatever, okay, sure. We've all like tried to just forgive. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, yeah, it didn't really work. Think about it. And she's like, okay, go back to the event. So she put people back in again, and we went back to the event. And then she brought us back out. Okay, who here is still feeling a heavy feeling of anger, betrayal? And every single person raised their hand. And she's like, exactly. And this is the big thing I hear all the time. If I just had closure. How many of us have said that? We've been snowed on this thing that there's closure with people. Even if that person says they're sorry, you're going to walk away and you're going to construct a story around it. They didn't really mean it. They just said it because, or you'll feel good for a few minutes and then the ego will start mind fucking again and try to break it down. Yeah, it's this never ending cycle. So I thought that was interesting that to start a forgiveness thing, she was walking us through how just the simplicity of just I forgive you is just, it doesn't get you there.
Right.
So then she took us back in, and instead of going to talk to the person, we went to talk to ourselves, ourself that was in that situation. And usually the person felt scared, again, the betrayed thing, all these different feelings, and has felt that way ever since. And some of this stuff was stuff that went back like 20 years that people were still feeling fucked over and scared. And it was really sad. And so if you sat with yourself and you listened to yourself, like you wouldn't be here if you didn't have a big compassionate heart. What would you do? You know, you'd hug that person, you'd listen to their story, you'd tell them you understand. And you would tell them, like, this is the chance for you to, like, be your parent to yourself, or, you know, be that whoever your mentor, big brother, big sister, and tell them, you know, I got you. We're not there anymore. Like, let's go. Like, walking through the whole damn thing. And it's super, super, super freeing.
Yeah.
That was my first real experience with getting to a place of forgiveness, is realizing that I had been beating myself up about putting myself in certain positions, or buying the first apology and even the second apology and staying in things. All those things add up and they're chipping away at your self-trust. So that was a really big part of forgiveness for me.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm going to read a little bit about what forgiveness means. Forgiveness is a conscious and deliberate choice to let go of feelings of resentment, anger, desire for revenge towards something or someone. And it brings me into that moment when I decided that I was going to forgive my mom, because I was holding on to so much and dealing with so much that I just couldn't take it anymore. And that's the thing about forgiveness. When you walk into it, you're actually saying, okay, I'm going to open the door to the possibility of it changing. So when you deliberately decide, I'm going to forgive this situation for me, not for the person or the situation, but for me, then a whole different school of things can happen. I know that when I did it, I felt free. I felt like a weight just like lifted from my shoulders. I engage with my mom a lot different now, allowing whatever unfolds, but knowing that no matter what happens, I'm not that kid anymore. I'm a grown-ass woman. I have full control of the boundaries in which I play in, and I don't let her get into or under my skin, if you will, because of the forgiveness that I put in play. Because I started to see her for her and said, okay, she was doing the best that she could with the information that she had, with the training that she had as being an adult, a parent, a woman, you know, doing all the things that she can possibly do within the construct of her mental health. Once I got to that place of like, okay, she is doing the best that she can. She did the best that she could. Not dismissing the shit that I went through. That's just saying, okay, I'm going to process that, allow that, and just forgive it, because what is it serving me? What I noticed that in holding on to it, I was angry. I was doing a lot of the things that the definition of it. And I didn't need that in my life because that wasn't happening to me anymore. None of that needed to be a filter in my world anymore. So when I walked into the forgiveness, I felt so much fucking better than I can put into words. And since then, how I approach things, and the most important thing, how I forgive myself. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times, I mean, I check in with myself. What am I doing? How am I doing it? Do I like it? Do I not like it? You know, is there something here that needs some healing, forgiving, or anything like that, so that I can put myself through the process, so that then I can turn around and apply that to my everyday life and move from that place. That's how I experience it, and that's how I utilize it in my life.
That's powerful. And I want to remind you that somebody else's bad behavior isn't a reflection of your self-worth. Because I know a lot of us have been like screwed over, and you're like, or I don't know, relationship gone wrong and they're off with somebody else, and you're like, oh, I wasn't good enough, or whatever, fill in the blank of whatever story and meaning that you're applying to it. Their bad behavior is a reflection of where they are internally. And to flip this around so you can see, I'm sure that we've all done things in our life that were like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Like, that wasn't cool. And, hopefully if you had the opportunity, you were able to apologize or rectify if you could. And sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you just have to accept that, okay, I fucked up. I'm not going to do it again. Forgive yourself because you were actually aware of it. You caught it, and you have a plan now of how you're not going to do it again. But if you look at any of those times, reflect back on them, and you can see that it was coming from a place of where you were internally at that point. Like, I know I did things when I wasn't as educated, or I wasn't as maybe healed with things as I could have been. So I was coming from more of a hurt place, say. And I mean, we've all said things that we out of hurt that we didn't really truly mean. So it all is about whoever the giver of the hurt is, if you want to call it that, where they are internally. So please try your damnedest not to take it personally and not to use it to chip away at your self-esteem. And also, just going back to that closure of why everybody's seeking it, besides we've all been told, like, if you just get closure, you need closure. The reason we keep going after it is the same reason everybody slows down on the highway to look at a car crash. Because somewhere subconsciously, you want to see the other person suffering as much as you've suffered. You want to know that you did matter and it hurt them as much and as deeply as it hurt you. I've found in my experience that half the time the other person didn't even realize that you were hurt at all, or as hurt as you were, because you just went along your merry way and they just thought, everything was kosher, whatever. Mm-hmm. I acted up like I do a million times, and they didn't yell at me like most people do, and they didn't this and that, so everything was just okay. And it was like a total non-event for them half the time. But that's that feeling of revenge, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it's also that feeling of meaning. So yeah, please don't do the slow down trying to look at the car wreck because you want to see the suffering. Because if you really look, you didn't like it. And I know sometimes it's just like, I want them to hurt too. That's like a grieving thing because you're grieving what you expected out of that relationship or a contract you had, or whatever it is. It's a step of grieving where you're just like that anger lashing out thing. So it's normal. Just don't sit there.
While you were talking, I was thinking about that sometimes in these situations, pride takes the front seat. When you do that, now you're sitting in resistance. Listen, if you fuck up and you say something or do something that is, past your core values, put pride out the window and apologize and forgive yourself for displaying such things. We're human. We're going to make mistakes, and it's okay as long as you forgive yourself in the process. So pride can take hold. So be aware of that. And move on from that. Don't use pride too much.
Please. And another thing that is very, very helpful is give yourself permission to go back into that story. And this is best if you can write it, and write out everything you would want to say to that person, or everything you'd want to do to that person, just to get it out of your system and make this a one-shot deal. Because you don't want to keep going back to that story and back into that, I want to tell them off and I want to ruin their life and I want to punch them in the face or whatever it is. Because then you're hardlining anger, violence, and revenge into your body, into your soul, as your frequency. So you can go from I'm a sad abused victim into I'm an angry whatever. We want to keep the energy moving, but we don't want the energy to be going down the scale into anger, violence, that sort of thing.
Right.
But you need it to move up and out of your system. And again, the apology is not going to move that stuck energy because it's your energy that's stuck.
I want to give you a quick message before we get back to this episode. Unlock the secrets of your soul for free with Soul Notes. Say goodbye to feeling stuck and hello to the validation of your alignment. These weekly prompts are filled with reminders, gentle nudges, and sometimes a kick in the ass, all with love from your soul. Don't just take our word for it. Try Soul Notes for yourself and see the difference it can make in your life. Trust us, your soul and you will thank you. Just go to soulnote.org. That's SOULNOTE.org. Now back to our podcast.
It's not going to magically lift it off your shoulders. It might shift it around a little bit, and then you'll build a whole new story around it. And it'll be a different energy. So technically it's shifted, but you really want it up and out. So you're doing this writing exercise to get it up. If you really, 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 really can't write it, dance it out. If you're into like boxing or exercise it out. Like do something to move your system. If you're writing it when you're done, flush it down the toilet, bury it, go throw it in the recycle bin or the dumpster or the garbage somewhere out of your house. So you're getting it out symbolically. You're physically doing something to get it out. And again, don't sit in that bad place. Because every time you're telling that story to yourself, you're just re-traumatizing yourself. You're training your mind to keep circling you back into that hurt place over and over and over again. You're creating a pattern, and that's not the pattern you want.
We put one story on top of another story, like we heal one, forgive it, and then we start to generate a whole other story around the story we just forgave.
Yep.
So if we can consciously be aware that we do that, first of all
of us, no matter how
we all
aware
do
you
it.
are.
So being consciously aware of it and then being mindful of the fact that you're doing it so that you can stop it in midway or before it even starts, if you will. So it comes back to really knowing yourself, really knowing what it is that you want to create in your life, so that you don't make choices that are going to derail the situation. And I'm not saying that like, that it's an easy task. I know it's not, because we're very reactive people. So, but when we know ourselves enough, we know when things are about to happen. I always say we know when we're starting to get pissed off. We know when someone has pushed a button. We know when we're about to do something we shouldn't be doing, saying, or acting upon. We always know that. There is always some sort of warning in your body that tells you that. So the minute you feel that, that's when you pause, man. Like, I can't impress upon you enough how powerful pausing can be. Because then you don't add to the situation a form of regret. Because then you'll regret what you've said, you regret how you acting, you regret all these different things. More things to heal and more things to forgive.
Right. So if you need to talk it out, like you don't know what to do after the pause because you really want to blow up or you really want to say that thing, you can simply say to the person, I'm pausing and I'm being quiet right now because my ego or the ego, my inner child, whatever you want to call it, is about to blow. And I don't want to do that on you because that's not fair. Like, at least get out to tell them that, like, this is what's going on with me. This is why I'm struggling. And they'll at least be able to see that you're being aware of it. You're trying to protect them from being the receiver of your bad behavior. And you're trying to stop your pattern. And then they'll have a lot more compassion and respect and not have to start to shield themselves because maybe they've been in this loop with you many, many, many times before.
I.e., clear communication. You want to have that with all the people in your life, as clear as possible, because no one gets to know what it is that you're thinking, feeling, or acting upon. Only you do. So if you verbalize that clearly, respectfully, in any situation, the better off it's going to be. When we like just react to something, it's a dumpster fire, really.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. We are creating a dumpster fire, and then we're trying to figure out how the fuck we're going to put it out at the same time. It's like you can see yourself doing it, and sometimes you just can't help yourself and you can't stop yourself. But when you're aware of it, when you're aware of you, those moments are easier to stop when they come along. So yeah, don't create dumpster fires, man.
Oh, please don't. Yeah, because we're master storytellers. So when you start to hear that, that's the story that's bubbling up in you. Somebody said something or did something totally innocently 99% of the time. Like they have to have a conversation with you about something because you have some sort of relationship. And they bring it up and it triggers the story and the story starts bubbling. The only person that can change that story is you. And this is why I said, like, real time narrate, retell the story out loud in the way that's going on for you right now. Instead of, I mean, this is choose your ending. If you're like an 80s or 90s child where they had those choose your own ending books. I love the books where you could like, okay, do you want to go to the palace or do you want to go to the farm? And you could pick and it was a total different story every time. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. I love that. This, you're reading the same short story over and over and over again. Like, and not having a happy ending ever. Like, that's a shitty story. Why would you want to keep reading that? And who's in charge of rewriting the ending? You are. Like, this is a big thing. And also remember that our memories are shit. We remember like maybe half of vital details in a story, and then it's our brain, if that, and our brain just fills in all the rest. Because I know I had an issue with a dear friend at one point. Something came up. So I immediately contacted her. We were going to talk about it. We had a conversation on over DM, resolved it. I still didn't like what happened. I was still kind of hurt, but I got why she did what she did and said what she said and all that. I got it. We peacefully resolved it in writing. And then I walked away and the hurt was still in there. Because in the moment I was okay, but after the story started going and it was going and it was going and it was going. And then, 2 years later, I hadn't talked to her in that long because our lives just went different ways. 2 years later, I had accidentally clicked on the DM from her and I started to read it back. And half the shit I was thinking at that point was like so left field from what had really happened. The core of the story was totally accurate. But all the rest of it, no. All the rest of it was part of that original story that I had created that we resolved over that DM. This is like layers of an onion thing. If it comes back up, is the feeling lighter than it was last time? Or is it still like real freaking heavy? That's how you know if you've really healed or not. If it's a non-event, totally neutral, you've actually forgiven. If it's a peaceful feeling, like not just neutral, you just feel peace whenever you think of that story or that person, that's when you've transcended it. That's how you tell. That's your scale.
Nice.
Still heavy, still work to do.
Forgiveness is an incredible tool to use in everyday life. And I don't think we deploy it enough. So being conscious about doing that is very important. Forgive yourself. Forgive the people that you need to forgive. And heal and change that story up.
Absolutely. And to talk a little bit more about the transcend piece, because maybe some of you are like, yeah, I kind of feel neutral over that person. Like I'm over being pissed and I'm over like that person's not even in my life anymore, or that scenario is never going to happen again because I learned from it. And that's another thing, to just take everything as more stuff you can learn about yourself and create, like you said, more solid boundaries and better communication. It can be really an awesome tool. But if you want to get to that transcend place, so this is what I did a few years ago. I was floating. If any of you haven't tried floating, it's freaking awesome. It's a great place to just like unwind and just really let spirit in to guide you and stop the monkey brain from guiding you. And I was in there, and I was in the middle of grieving a friend that had passed away. And I swear to God, like after I got really deep into it, about 45 minutes into it, I could see her face. And you can't see anything in there, it's sensory deprivation. But I swear to God, I saw her face. And then I heard her, and she said, "You need to find peace." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, so sure." Like, how? I always ask, how? Please just tell me how. And so we went back and forth, and then I got this idea. Like, she didn't really say it to me. I just got an idea that for 28 days, I was going to, because we had Facebook at that time with Soul Intentions, I was going to go live. And I called it 28 Days to Peace, because that was my end goal, was to get to peace with this, not just like I forgave. And every day, even though I didn't want to, I sat in the bathroom with my little phone and I turned it on. I had no clue what the hell I was going to talk about. And so I just started talking about the story, and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to talk about the story. Like, it doesn't suit me anymore. It didn't feel good. So I started reflecting on, okay, well, I really want peace. So why do I keep focusing on the story? And that's another thing. You're not going to find forgiveness in the story. Forgiveness happens in your body and your heart. Forgiveness happens tapping back into your soul, because your soul just is full of compassion and love, and it's peace. So the way we're all going at forgiveness by looking at the story and talking about the story, no, it's not there. That's the big miss. So, and I figured this out like really quickly in my first few days of doing these little, short 5-10 minute things. And I started focusing on peace. So I would just talk about my day and any moment in the day that felt like peace, or anything that came up that didn't feel like peace, and how I walked myself back to peace, or why I couldn't, like what I felt were my barriers. Like it just unfolded everything in me. And by the end of that 28 days, I felt so freaking good, and I was so glad that I did it. It's actually up on YouTube. I can put a link to the first day of 28 Days to Peace if you want to look at them. They're quick little videos just to kind of see a walkthrough of what my process was. So if you're at that point where you're ready to transcend, this might be a great thing for you. You don't have to go live on Facebook, obviously, but record it so you can, watch it back, or write it out. Just grab a journal. Mm-hmm. These are my 28 days, and use what I did as a blueprint, because it really moved my needle on peace and transcendence so far. It was amazing.
Yeah, like for me, it was writing. When I decided to forgive my mom, I wrote everything I thought was relevant to say.
Yes.
Like, I broke it down, every single aspect of it. I broke it down. And when the time came, not an ounce of that took place.
Yep.
It was so raw and authentic, and came from a place of a healed person, versus the story and the laundry list of shit that I wanted to say. It was more of this is how I felt. This is how it became for me in your presence. But yeah, I wrote it down. And it was interesting, because some of the things that I wrote down, it was just like things that had happened, like, oh my God, like years and years and years ago. And I know that I was healing that particular aspect of my life. And it was amazing to me, the stuff that came up. But more amazing is that none of those words ever came out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. What came out of my mouth was that the truth of the healing that I had created within myself, that came into play in forgiving her.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very, very awesome.
So the bottom line is, life is messy. People are messy. We all fuck up.
But we clean up nice.
I was just going to say, we all deserve forgiveness. Some people, I still like, some things in the world are just beyond. But that's okay, as long as you find peace in your soul. We all deserve peace. So check yourself. Let down that guard. Be vulnerable just with yourself. It doesn't have to be with other people if you're not ready, if you're not there. Again, you don't have to broadcast live. Mm-hmm. check that ego, check the story, walk yourself home to peace.
Yeah.
That's forgiveness.
And we're here to help.
All
If
the
you
time.
need any kind of help with that, let us know. Hit us up on our social media inboxes, DM us, whatever, however that works. And we can certainly help you do any of those things.
Exactly. All right. Forgive.
Be kind.
Peace.
Peace.